Good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Sunday, the 14th of November, and the day after what will probably go down as one of the worst severe weather outbreaks seen in areas across parts of the Northeast. And we're going to talk about that and then go forward and see where this all is taking us. The Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. And we should be thinking about winter and loading up on rock salt. They got plenty of it, and they have the lowest prices anywhere in the tri-state area and beyond on not just rock salt, but all the great snow melt products out there, snow and ice melt products like Pelado and Mag Ice Pellets and Flakes, and anything else you need, including snow blowers, all at Omni True Value Hardware, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, 631-756-1125. The website is omnitruevalue.com. Wholesale holiday lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs as we every day gets us one day closer to Christmas. What is it now? 36 days until Wait, hold on. 14, 16 plus 25 is 41 days until Christmas. And that includes anything to make your front lawn and house outstanding with Santa, snowmen, elves, lights, garland, wreaths, and everything else. They're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York, 631-957-5106. And the website is liholidaylighting.com. So, Mr. Rayo, I don't think there's going to be any argument in saying what I said just said a moments ago about what happened yesterday. That this has got to go down. I mean, we've had actually in the last 10 or so years, we've had a number of these November severe weather outbreaks. But this one, I think, takes the cake in a lot of ways. And the tornadic activity was just crazy.
You know something, Joe? I saw the handwriting on the wall early yesterday morning when I was looking at all of the guidance. I mean, I saw, for example, on the NAM-FUS, and boy, I'm gonna wear a black armband for about a month after they take guidance model away from us next year. Looking at the NAM-FUS yesterday, they went from a lifted index of 8 like at 2 a.m. to like -4.
Oh my God!
And then bounced right back up, again to like plus 11 6 hours later. And my eyes like opened up. And then when I looked at SPC, and they had this small but very compact area of marginal, and then a wider area within of slight,
right,
that was bullseyed right over the tri-state area. I said, "Holy mackerel!" And then they had the parameters: 2% chance of tornadic activity, but something like a 15 or 20% chance of severe winds, 15% chance of hail. I said, this is going to be a problem. When you saw that shortwave, that very dynamic shortwave swing like a pendulum right across the tri-state area by early afternoon, and I posted on my Facebook pages, any of you who are reading this now, 2 to 4 o'clock today, keep your eye on the sky, because we're a cruising for a bruising, so to speak.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen. I know you knew what was going to happen. I just wish that the mainstream media played this up a little bit more, because last evening when I was watching some of the newscasts, and they said, "What? No one told us about this." It came out of nowhere. Yeah. What happened, or whatever like that.
Look, I'm going to be honest here. Yesterday morning, when I saw the slight risk and I looked at everything, and the first thought that came to my mind was, because I don't remember seeing that on the day before. I don't remember seeing a marginal risk on Friday being indicated for Saturday. So, if they had, right, then you could say, okay, they jumped it up to a slight risk. I was talking with Timothy Veltman yesterday morning, and, we were both seemed to be on the idea that, I don't know, does this look a little overstated? With regards to what was happening, it's not often we get, we had some severe weather around on Friday with the cold front. Okay, you kind of expected that, considering what was going on, and yes, we we mentioned, in the middle part of last week, when we were talking about the second trough coming through, that it did look like a bit of a powerhouse. But I have to tell you, I mean, I didn't think it was going to turn out the way it did. I mean, that was it was nuts yesterday afternoon. The Weather Service right now, by the way, is out checking the damage profiles across what happened on Long Island. I'm just looking at the pictures. I've got to believe it's got to be a tornado, because trees were, instead of falling down, they were basically snapped in half. I mean, the kind of damage doesn't look like was the kind you get with straight line winds.
Microburst.
Yeah, it really was astonishing, and in many respects, I thought it was kind of stunning. Look at the Tornado HQ actually has a bit of a tornado archive, and they got the coloring is in gray, but they're showing here the tornado warnings there were 5 individual tornado warnings that were put out over Long Island, and then of course the severe weather shifted into southeastern New England. There were also what was it, 1, 2, 3 tornado warnings up surrounding all of Providence on all sides, by the way, and also tornado warnings down in the southeastern Mass on the road to Cape Cod. I mean, this was really, and this was just really crazy. It was. I don't know how. I don't know what else to. I don't know what other hyperbole I can add to this.
Well, you know what it reminded me of when I was looking at it early yesterday morning. It reminded me of a lot of those cases that we see in April, when we have those very cold pools of air passing overhead, and they tend to generate localized severe weather. And I stepped outside yesterday morning too, before this all happened, and I said, "Boy, it really feels balmy out there."
Yeah.
It almost felt like, yeah, if we're going to have a nasty setup this afternoon, that this is the kind of setup that. And I didn't check to see, if there was any kind of, convective, values, CAPE, as we call them, in advance. But just by looking at the 500 and seeing just this concentrated dome of very chilly, if not downright cold air that was aiming right toward us. And I can remember, as I said, I remember many in April where we've had these pea-sized hail. And Joe, I've been up here in Putnam Valley for almost 20 years, and this was and I've only seen one other case like this in terms of hail. In fact, my deck almost turned completely white. If it had gone another 5 minutes, I would have had to get the snow shovel out to shovel off this layer of hail.
Yes, that was another thing that happened with all of this.
Yeah. It was pea-sized, although somebody sent to me a picture. The hail was in their hand, and it was certainly not pea-sized. It looked more like quarter-sized type hail. So in parts of where I live, my neighborhood, it ranged anywhere from pea-sized to maybe dime, nickel, and even quarter-sized hail. And it was the most prolific fall of hail that I have seen in the almost 20 years that I've been up here. And that combined with what really was scary to me, I'm surrounded on 3 sides of my house. I am surrounded by trees that range anywhere from 40 to maybe as high as 70 feet high. And these trees, Joe, were going like this, back and forth. And I'm saying to myself, this is it. This is it. Between the darkening of the sky.
It's a twister.
I mean, it reminded me of that scene in the 10 Commandments where the skies grow dark, the hail is coming down, the wind is blowing, and I'm saying to myself, this is it. This is it.
And then a voice of Edward G. Roberts in the background going, "Where's your Messiah now?
Where's your Messiah now?"
I got a couple of things. Joe Maiano sent me a link to a tweet, so I just want to show it with regards to. This is from Matthew Capucci, by the way. I want to give credit where credit is due. and he's got a radar shot here of a radar loop of what looked like on Long Island as these tornadoes. He says this was an event we'll remember for quite some time. Indicators suggest two independent spins / lobes of lofted debris may have combined. One died and ingested into the other near the radar site. And if you kind of sort of see what happens here on the loop. As it goes forward, you see the two tornado warnings, and then suddenly, the burst of what looks like the tornado, and then we get this close-up shot here. I'm kind of having a little bit of a tough time comprehending what the look actually says, so I'm, quoting straight word for word from what he said. And thanks, Joe, for sending it along. Also, James Harris, who hit Super Chat yesterday. Let's go to his. He sent me a video, so I'm going to try and bring it up here with regards to what he experienced. Because James is a great guy, and also a bit of a risk taker here because he loves to get on the road and drive through this stuff. And he did that yesterday. We'll let the video load here. And you'll start to see. I don't know if you can hear the gnat sound well or not, but this is on, I believe it was of 87, and ultimately the hail gets to a point where he's got to pull off the side of the road. But you see how it gets progressively worse and worse. That's hail banging on the car. By the way, it's not raindrops. And
right.
I mean, it's just, and also in terms of the time of day, it was early afternoon, so it's fairly dark here. For
well, you see the guy in front of him pulling off.
Yes.
Yeah, that's scary. It was scary.
I saw shots from of 87 up near. I think I sent it to you. The up near Tuxedo. The ground looked like they just put down an inch of snow. I mean, it was completely white on the roadways.
I believe it.
There he is. He finally had to pull off here. So we'll just now we're just kind of waiting for the Weather Service to let us know. They're in the looking at the tornado in Mastic Shirley on Long Island, also in southwestern Connecticut, and I think the Weather Service is also looking at what's going on over what went on in and around Providence. Just crazy. By the way, Super Chat hitters, James Harris, thank you so much for hitting the tip jar. And, I was thinking about Shraggy Stern, who has disappeared since the winter months, and Shraggy is now back. And he starts off with banging the tip jar. So, Shraggy, you must have, I've been ESPing you for the last week or so, wondering when you were going to come back. So it's good to see you back on the chat board. Now all we have to do is find the two other MIAs, Joe. Mr. Ruben Fairchild, who has been gone for the last couple of months, and of course,
Samad
Ahmad. Who I think I have him. I think I have Samad Ahmad blocked on the channel. So I'm not sure if what was I can't remember why I might have done that. But if
the Bugs Bunny song, who was a tribute to him. Atsamada, hey, Atsamada for you.
Yeah. Paul Roman asks a very good question. Because this also, occurred to me with regards to what happened yesterday in terms of the overall impact on the longer term pattern. And I seem to recall also in the instances where we've had severe weather outbreaks in the month of November in the last 10 or so years, that it has often kicked off what in most of those cases it kicked off a trend to colder, and perhaps the whole continuing to focus on the idea of, well, maybe this winter is going to be a front-end loaded winter, that December will turn out to be a rather interesting type of month. By the way, we should remember too, we had a nice mid-month December snowstorm last year in many locations.
Right.
So the fact that if we wind up with I don't know if that you would fall that, I don't know what the definition is of a front-loaded winter, because it's hard to break down events when you have a volatile pattern where you're kind of shifting back and forth. But we did have an early start to a wintry-like pattern, and from what I'm seeing on the long range, it's been very, very confusing to me with regards to the models and how they've been behaving in terms of the longer term over the last week or two. I mean, even in instances, we sort of expect to go from run to run, and you see different things on different runs. First, something is there, then it's not there, then it's sort of there, then it disappears, it comes back. You sort of expect that, but through all of that, you try to find some degree of continuity in terms of the overall picture that's being painted. And I'm having a real difficult time for the last 10 days or so trying to find that continuity thread in terms of where we're going in the next couple of weeks. The GFS is in one place. The European's been very bullish about the end of November and the month of December, showing deep trough in the east, strong ridge in the west. The GFS not quite in the same. On some runs it is, on some runs it's the exact opposite. So I'm not. I'm just having a difficult time trying to put all of this into some sort of logic.
Well, you get back to the discussion a few moments ago of how sometimes in November convection can lead to the start or kicking off of cold weather and wintry conditions. We need only go back to, and it's amazing. What blows my mind is that what I'm about to refer to is over 30 years ago, but it seems like it was just only a few years ago. But the winter of 89, 90, when we had that bitter cold December, and it was led into by a tremendous convective event that occurred in mid-November, which sadly led to the fatalities of several school children upstate New York when a microburst occurred. It was on a Friday afternoon, and tremendous winds. And anyway, this system came on through, followed in by a big push of colder air, which the following week led to a Thanksgiving snowstorm, for goodness sake.
Right.
We had like 4, 5, 6 inches of snow, and then that went away. Then we settled into a pattern of about 4 or 5 weeks of bitterly cold. I think one of the coldest months that I could ever remember of any stretch, including January and February. And then that was with us through the end of December of 89, and then all of a sudden it just went away, and the rest of the winter was garbage if you were a winter weather lover.
Yep.
So who knows, Joe, this may very well lead into front-loaded conditions in terms of snow and or cold, but the question is, how long can we maintain that? Because it may be let's say, into December, and then, as we saw in 89, 90, it may just go away, and the rest of the winter may not be much of anything. We'll see.
All right. Well, I got a couple of other things that were just sent to me, and one is Mitch on Twitter. I'm sorry, Mitch on Twitter. On Twitter, who goes by @VermonsterWX. So giving you credit, Mitch. So you had your Jim Cantori moment, he says, yesterday with thunder snow, and I think I got the Nat sound up here. So let me start it from the beginning. And there we go.
I got some lightning. See that?
Whoa.
Yeah, got it.
That's nice thunder. I don't know. I can hear it on my headset, Joe. I don't know if you can hear it there.
Listen to that thunder.
No, I can't.
All right, so trust me.
But I see the flash. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to Mitch, he's @vermonsterweather.com. and you can share in
Got the lightning.
his moment. Also,
That-
Timothy Veltman just sent me
Yeah,
this.
got it.
All right, let me turn that off because I'm hearing. All right, so let's go. Timothy Veltman says now, the now on Saturday on Friday there was a tornado. There was a tornado warning in and around the Binghamton area. I'm assuming, Timothy, you're referring to that tornado warning. He said, I hate to point out, but this was declared a microburst by NWS Binghamton. I think we must keep in mind the amount of loose leaves floating around that we don't see in the summer. I wonder if some of these updrafts lofted leaves high up in the air off the trees, and the radar saw that as debris aloft. I certainly think that's possible. I mean, there's leaves down everywhere.
Yeah, as you're talking, Joe, I went to Mitch at vermonsterweather.com. Yeah, and I through my headphones here, I most definitely can hear not only the thunder, but Mitch himself saying, "Yeah, got it." So yeah, that is certainly a Jim Cantori moment. Congratulations, Mitch, on capturing that.
Okay, so we'll wait to see what the Weather Service does with all this, with regards to what the outcome on the tornado, possible tornadoes on Long Island and also in southeastern New England. Paul Roman banging on Super Chat. Thank you, Paul. Most appreciated there. And so let's look forward. We have another upper trough coming through tonight, but this one will not have the melodramatics that the one we had yesterday.
Thank God.
By the way, kudos to SPC because they really highlighted this very strongly yesterday morning, and it's a gutsy forecast come out in the middle of November with a severe weather outbreak the way and then it turned out the way it did.
Well, you're absolutely right that there was on Friday nothing remotely resembling what we ultimately saw yesterday. But again, remember that these forecasts, these convective forecasts, these convective outlooks are put out not by a machine; they're put out by real people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who was on duty on Friday and failed to mention or allude to what we saw yesterday. But whoever was on yesterday morning really did a bang up job in forecasting. And I looked at this and I remember the day before not seeing this. And I said to myself, why in the world are they saying this? What are they? And that's when I immediately went to the FOOS, the NAM FOOS, saw that tremendous drop in the lifted index, which is often used as one factor in trying to determine whether or not there'll be convective activity. And then I took a look at the 500 on the GFS and the NAM, and I saw again that sharp trough coming around and through like a pendulum by early afternoon yesterday. And I looked at some of the temperatures at 500, which were wrapped up and like a little bundle of cold. And I said, uh oh. And and again, thinking back not to November, as you mentioned, Joe, but to many April events where we have seen this happen. And one of the first things that popped into my mind was pea-sized hailers. As
Right.
I think Tom Grant or maybe it was Tom Morgan in some of the discussions back in the day, they didn't say hail, they said pea-sized hailers. And I'm saying to myself, this could be a pea-sized hailer event. And boy, did we had a hailer event yesterday. So kudos to whoever was on yesterday at SPC who made that forecast.
By the way, we should note too that all through the summer and into the fall, and this includes the remnants of Ida, were all got extra added juice by these sharp upper troughs that these powerhouse upper troughs in the northern jet that came down and just gave it that extra punch. So this is not the first time we've seen this in the last 4 or 5 months. I often go to the idea that when you get into a weather pattern in any given period of time, yeah, things don't repeat, but they rhyme. And there's been a lot of rhyming going on from July right through right through now. Leon Probitsky also banging the super chat jar. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated. Chuck Cardillo, Joe, I don't know the answer to this question. He says, do you remember what the state of the Enzo was in '89, in the winter of '89-90 when it was so cold in December? And if I remember correctly, that was probably, that was one of the coldest Decembers on record. I think it's in the top 5. And then we had, +9 anomalies in January, +9 anomalies. I think with the warmest January and the warmest February on record followed that cold December. I don't remember what the state of the El Nino was that particular year, but I got to think that it was enough to wrap the polar vortex up in the stratosphere into a tight little ball with regards to that.
I'm on a site right now. It's gweather.com/enso/oni.htm, and it gives El Nino and La Nino years and intensities. And I'm looking here to see if 89-90 fell into any of these categories. And from what I see, Joe, there was no sign of any kind of weak, moderate, strong, or very strong El Nino, and there was no sign in 89-90 of any weak, moderate, or strong La Nina. So this may have been a year, 89-90 may have been a La Nada year. In other words, nothing standing out in terms of La Nina or in terms of El Nino. It was a year where there was no significant Enzo occurrence taking place. So, not interestingly, 88-89, the year before, the winter before, La Nina was indicated that we had a strong La Nina in 88-89. But then we had to wait until 98-99 for the next strong La Nina. Usually after a strong La Nina, you get the following year, you get a significant El Nino. And I'm looking and I don't see anything for 89-90. So again, that may have been a La Nada year, a year where there was no major or significant activity from either an El Nino or a La Nina.
All right. So let's move along to today. We've got on the satellite loop, seeing clouds starting to roll in from the west. Yet another upper trough that stands out, but this is not, again, like the powerhouse of yesterday. And you see it here in terms of where the base of that upper trough is, how it's swinging eastward. And of course, you're also looking at a cold front that's going to be coming through with it. And there is also some precip. So the clouds will be increasing. By the way, that was another thing about yesterday, too. There were some healthy temperature drops after the front went by. The flow of the clouds, certainly you could see where the ridge is, ridging in the western part of the United States and general troughing here in the eastern part of the United States. I actually have the radar left over from yesterday just before the tornado warnings went up across Long Island. So you could see the half a dozen or so severe thunderstorm and special marine warnings that were going on. Also, the cluster that was just south of Albany, that actually was wet snow that was being picked up by the radar in the elevated areas, but eventually that too wound up evolving into a thunderstorm. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh, it looks like there's a cluster of thunderstorms up in Albany. Tim Veltman messages me saying, well, that might not be the case, that it's the wet snow that might be going on in some of the elevated areas there. And then shortly afterward, he sent me another message saying, well, guess what? I just had lightning and thunder here. So it looks like it's turning into a thunderstorm. So that was then. So let's look at today as we check out the radar. And there is a little bit of precip aloft showing up here at midday and out to the west. You see this looks like an arm that's moving across Ohio and down into Kentucky and pushing eastward. And also the top of that arm into an upper low, or what's left of an upper low in northern Michigan. We have also some precip moving through Montana and parts of the Dakotas, and the never-ending rain that is the case up in the Pacific Northwest. And the Storm Prediction Center, why don't we just take a look, Joe, just in case, just in case, not expecting them to do anything with this, but no thunderstorms are forecast today, tomorrow, or Tuesday. All right. So hopefully there won't be any last-minute additions anywhere after what occurred yesterday. WPC,
Yes.
the folks at WPC, in terms of precip going forward for the next 7 days. So this takes us through next Sunday. Not a whole lot of precip going on up and down in the east. By the way, I was 23 this morning here with a frost on everything and definitely a hard freeze. 23. No precip from southwestern Virginia southward into northern Florida, Georgia into Alabama, and along much of the Gulf Coast. So some nice weather setting up there. You see half to 3/4 of an inch amounts through north central New York, and then back over to southwestern New York, down into northwestern PA, Ohio, and continuing south and west into Indiana and over into western Kentucky, continuing to get pounded up in the Pacific Northwest, but the Southwest is quiet. The Central Plains, quiet, minimal precip down in the Southern Plains, and a little bit of rain there in southeastern Florida on the order of a couple of inches over the next week or so. So, on that note, let's look at what the Mr. Teleconnections have to tell us, and we'll start with the NAO, which once again, we see this split, Joe, in the longer term. Half the members are negative, half the members are positive, roughly. And actually, some of the members are strongly negative, and a couple of the members are about one standard deviation positive. So this probably explains why we're seeing model volatility the way it is, where we go from run to run, seeing a dynamic upper airs to the exact opposite over the next couple of weeks. And the PNA, the Pacific North America Index, we'll give it a refresh. So we have today's numbers. And again, here too, you've got half the members positive as we move through the next two, going positive over the next 2 weeks, and half the members staying either neutral or going negative at the end of the forecast period. So the teleconnections, are, at least based on the GFS ensembles, are really giving us no clue here as to where this is all going to go.
You're going to have to toss a coin, Joe. Just
I don't know.
That's the best you could do right now.
Oh yeah, and by the way, Izzy D hitting super chat also. Thank you, Izzy. Most appreciated as always. All right, so here's what I mean in terms of the differences. So I noticed this last night. Let me bring this up. I'm going to bring up the 500. Okay, so I got to go forward a little bit here. So obviously, while we have this up, we can sort of break down what happened yesterday. You see that, that V-shaped trough. Remember, we talked about how the cold front for Friday was coming out well ahead of the upper air support. And you get this, V-shaped. You cannot, Joe, you can't get a sharper V than what you see here, what you saw here Saturday morning. I mean, that's just crazy.
Right.
And the whole thing just went negative. Right. Now here comes the next.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The next trough, obviously not the V-shaped animal that we saw yesterday. So that's going to lift out. So after Tuesday, we should warm up quickly Wednesday and Thursday. Here comes another upper low swinging across Lake Winnipeg, moving into the east. This is going to push another cold front through at the end of the week. Then that lifts out. And here comes a deeper trough for early next week. So the beginning of Thanksgiving week, if this is off the 6Z GFS, by the way, it would be cold. I mean, not crazy cold, but certainly, below average temperatures, or the trend of below average temperatures would continue. But I want to just kind of compare this and go back a couple of runs. So let's go to the 0Z run. And this is for next Tuesday. Okay. Now on the 0Z run, you do have a trough in the east, but the model's picking up on all these short waves running around. One that's swinging through upstate New York, another one dropping down to the plains, another one that's down in the northeastern Gulf. Go to the run before that. There was one run. I don't know which one it was. Maybe it was this one. Let's see. Look at this one. This was from, I think, 18Z yesterday. I mean, it brings down an upper low from Great Slave Lake to the lakes, and then it gets so deep I can't even read how low the heights got with this. I think the heights got below 500 in northern New England. So this would be for next Tuesday into Wednesday. So if this were the case, remember the thicknesses, they were showing 504 thicknesses here. I mean, this would be for this time of year a very, very cold shot of air. But you see how you go from run to run, there's no continuity in terms of these systems and in terms of how the models are handling it. And I think that's what the teleconnections are telling you. There's too much going on, and we don't. There's too much going on all over the northern hemisphere, and we just have no firm grasp as to where all of this is headed.
You know, and I once asked somebody. It was at an NWA weather conference. It was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and the gentleman, I forgot which meteorologist it was, but he was talking about, how things are collected and posted on their site or whatever. And I raised my hand. And I said, I have a question. I said, have you ever noticed that there's a distinct difference in accuracy between the 0Z primary run and the 12Z primary run? And he looked at me kind of strange, like no one had ever asked him that question before. And I said, my reasoning is that I've always felt that there was a little bit more, or the 12Z runs were a little bit more accurate than the 0Zs, because the 0Zs are based upon guidance, based upon data that has been sent up into the atmosphere by radiosondes across the continental United States, for example. And it comes at the end of the day, and especially in the summertime, there are a lot of showers and thunderstorms and convective activity, and all of that goes into the overall mix. And so what happens is that the 0Z runs comes out, and they stir up and they bring up storms based in part upon the input of those areas of convection. Whereas at 12Z, a lot of things, everything is more quiet, if you will. It's the dead of the morning or whatever, and you don't have so much convection, and so everything is kind of flattened out, so to speak. And so you don't see as dynamic usually these sudden changes of a major or big storm happening relative to what the run 12 hours prior to that. And so when you're saying you're making comparisons here between last night's run and today's run or the day before, I've often wondered whether or not that there's sometimes like a discontinuity between, the 0Z and the 12Z, that they sometimes don't seem to line up. And that may be one of the reasons. But the gentleman who I posed this question to, who was at WPC, the World Weather Prediction Center, didn't have couldn't say yay or nay to either case. He just assumed that,
I would just add to it by saying this. I think you could certainly make that case for the NAM, because you're kind of looking at just North America. But I wonder with the global models, because remember, it's
right.
Taking
here, everything,
right. So whereas at night there's you're not going to really see a whole lot of convective feedback over North America. But on the other hand, in some other part of the world where it's daytime, in the same time frame, there might be convective outbreak, convective feedback going on in the Indian Ocean, in the South China Sea, or wherever.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, you could say that, well, that one sort of cancels each other out. But then on the other hand, you could say, well, doesn't the convective feedback that occurs over North America more relevant to what's going on here, as opposed to convective feedback, on the other side of the international date line and what's going on there? So yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I think just the fact that maybe the best approach is what we do, which is pretty much you just sort of put it all in the wash and try to decipher,
Yes.
which way it's going from run to run, rather than say, well, the 0Z is better than the 12, or the 12 is better than the 0, or the 6 is better than the 18, or the 18 is better than the 6. I will say that every once in a while, and we always try to call attention to it when we know, but when there are big storms around and NOAA has money to spend in the budget, or has to spend the money before the fiscal year is over, they sometimes will have new data going into the 6 and 18Z runs, whether they send out plane recon missions into hurricanes, and also when they do it for non-tropical storms. But just going back to that comparison, I just pulled up the new GFS, and of course, moving through this week, again, trough lifts out. We warm up nicely Wednesday and Thursday. I'm thinking we'll be back into the 60s. I would be probably close to 60 on Wednesday, and then into the 60s on Thursday. Now the cold front goes by, flat ridge in the east. Here comes that that troughing and upper low that drops down from part of it that drops down from Great Slave Lake, and that brings in a cold shot of air over next weekend and early for Thanksgiving week. Then that's as far out as this is kind of interesting. I'll be curious to see what it does after Tuesday with energy in the plains and in the southern plains, and also in the Rockies. And you got this upper low in Maine, and you've got rising heights over Greenland and in the North Atlantic. We're out to almost to day 9. We're out to day 9 on the GFS now. So it'll. In a few minutes, we'll go a little bit further. So let's see what this run has to say. Excuse me. It was cold this morning, Joe. I have a thermostat in my house set at 60, so the heat doesn't come on right away. But when it does, it just ruins my sleep. I'm not good at sleeping in the heat. All right, so by the way, some wet snow tonight in parts of upstate New York and northern and northwestern PA. Might put down a coating to a couple of inches. It'll all be elevation driven there. Then you see how the high moves off the mid-Atlantic coast on Tuesday afternoon. We start a warm-up on Wednesday, warms up into Thursday. There's your cold front that comes in. And then I'm going to switch over to the map with the thicknesses so you can see how cold it is. So the next high looks like behind that some showers here, Joe, late Thursday night. On the breezy side on Friday with a northwest wind. Looks kind of cold for New England down in the northern mid-Atlantic. Then that high goes out. Here comes another cold front for Monday, and a little wave that runs out ahead to bring in the cold air for Monday night, Tuesday. 522, 516 thickness over the northeast. And then it looks like we got a low cutting. The Europeans got a big low that it wants to cut to the lakes for the middle part of next week. The GFS has something cutting to the lakes here on Thanksgiving Day, in which case we'll be dry with beginnings of a southerly flow ahead of another cold front. So I don't know. It's changed so many times over the last week to 10 days. My confidence factor on all of this is, as I said, very, very low.
Well, what else is new?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did somebody on the chat board just posted Thanksgiving is 11 days away, still no real clue as to what's going to happen.
Right.
Because of the fact that the models are they're going back and forth. Speaking of going back and forth with these models, there's going to be an almost total eclipse of the moon coming up early on Friday morning, which I've had my eye on with the weather. And here in the northeastern part of the country, visibility of that eclipse is going to hinge. It's going to happen like 4 o'clock in the morning, if any of you are interested. What our chances of seeing it will hinge on will be the cold front. And early on, when I started looking, the cold front supposedly was going to stay off to our north and west. And I said, oh, well, maybe we'll be able to see some of this before the cold front arrives. Then a few days ago, the cold front was through our area, and we were actually behind the front, and we'd had a chance to see it with a clearing trend. Then the last day or two, it shows the cold front sitting almost directly on top of us, and wiping us out with clouds and scattered precipitation. And I think now the latest run has the front trying to ease off the. So really, if you're trying to nail something down, even to a matter of, let's say, 12 or 24 hours with these runs, with these models, it's very, very difficult. And don't even ask trying to go, let's say, beyond 5 days. It's just almost an impossible, if not infuriating, task.
Right.
If it's something that you need to, if it's something that you need to know. I need to know whether or not it's going to be nice the day before Thanksgiving. Forget about it. You're not going to be able to say with any definitive certainty or
At least
surety,
not yet.
because it just not yet. No, absolutely.
Tom Contino. Tom Contino is already, canceling the winter, apparently. Let me just point out something. He says, sick of hearing about pattern changes. He said, the Farmer's Almanac said it would be cold in November. No snow on Long Island, awful pattern. It's mid-November. It doesn't snow much, if at all, in the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states in mid-November, okay? It just doesn't. When they happen, they're anomalies. It don't happen. Period. End of story. End of sentence. Exclamation point. I don't understand what everybody's expectations are. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's mid-November. Good God.
Well, why is it? Can I ask a question? Why is it that nobody talks about the summer in the same way that we talk about the winter? Why aren't people out there, talk? Well, the summer's going to be very hot. Or, the summer's going to have a lot of showers and thunderstorms. Oh, it's going to be a dry summer. No one ever talks about the summer in that way, the way we talk about the winter. And I mean, like in the same focus, people might talk about the summer in mid-May. They start saying, well, this summer's going to be warm, or this summer's going to be humid, this summer's going to have a thunderstorm. It's the same thing, except nobody ever does that. They always talk about the winter, but they don't.
There are not a lot, Joe. I don't know if you've picked up on this, but
there's not a lot of snow in the summer.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you don't see, there are not a lot of rain weenies out there. Okay, they really aren't. So that we can put those out. Yeah, there are thunderstorm weenies, but
hurricane
weenies, but they are dwarfed by comparison to the number of snow weenies out there. And I know there's this sort of expectation that it's supposed to snow every day from October 1st to May 1st, and anything less than that is you're being cheated somehow. So I get the energy behind it. I understand it, but November. So Tom says, I need to apologize, but I'm getting annoyed. Antsy that the pattern won't lock in for cold and snow. Okay, let me just point out that if you look at some of the most active winters that we've had in terms of snowfall, whether they're ones that go like 13, 14, for example, that we basically had snow cover on the ground from mid-December to almost the first day of spring, to others where we get heavy snows, but it kind of goes, kind of comes in bunches. You get a solid pattern for a couple of weeks, then it relaxes, then it picks up again, and then it relaxes. As far as locking into something, we usually don't lock into anything until we get to the middle or latter part of December. So if we're going to lock into a pattern, it would be highly unusual to do it now. This is the transition period. And as I've often said, when it comes to pattern changes, and by the way, if you don't think that there's been a pattern change between what we had in October to what we've been experiencing in November, you're not paying attention to the weather, okay? You are not paying attention to the meteorology. You're paying attention to that emotional person inside you who's throwing a fit because you're not seeing what you want to see. There's been a pattern change. There's been a big pattern change from what we saw in October to what we're seeing here in the month of November. Now, where this goes, I don't know, but you have to acknowledge that fact that we have seen a pattern change. And again, ultimately, there's nothing we can do here now unless you really have great foresight and able to look at models and figure out, how this is all going to turn out in a couple of weeks. There are some people out there who are pretty good at that, but until then, you just have to kind of let the dust settle and wait to see how it plays. That's all you can do.
Now, speaking of all the snow weenies, allow me to share a screen.
All
I
right.
got to show you this. I just saw this pop up. This just popped up on AOL. And yes, friends, I am an AOL. I do use AOL.
He's
People
the
say,
one.
"Oh, how could you use AOL?"
He's the one.
I'm the one. I want to show you. This is one of the headlines this morning on AOL. Can you see this, Joe, on your screen?
Yes.
Can you see the? Can you see this here?
Yes, she used
First
several
measurable.
she used several shades of body paint. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not turning your attention to this. Forget about this.
No, I know what you're looking at. I see it. First measurable snow to
Can I make it
pummel.
Pummel, chilly northeast. But look at the picture that they're using.
Right.
Look at the picture.
Right. The
Brooklyn
Bridge from what, 1888?
And a couple of people walking in the snow. You see that, and if you live in New York City, you're probably saying, "I didn't hear about this. We've got snow coming. It's going to pummel us." Oh my God! Oh dear me! Oh God!
It just goes.
It never ends, Joe.
Nope, it doesn't. It goes on and on and on and on. Yes, it does. Oh, good Lord. So, do you have Briller Jeopardy?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Yes, I do.
Let's do that. And
as Mr. O'Torre used to say on the game show Treasure Hunt, for all of you out there who remember that show from the 70s and 80s, the security man on Treasure Hunt, he only said one sentence the entire show. Mr. O'Torre, did you hide the check? Yes, I did. Do I have Briller Jeopardy? Yes, I do.
yeah.
And here it is from Mr. Briller. This is the Joe Chiaffi round of Briller Jeopardy, and we will present you with the questions right now. For Mr. Chiaffi today, we center on records in Le Parc, Central Park, since 1869.
Right.
And here's your first question, Joe. Number one, what is the most snow ever to fall in the month of November at Central Park since 1869? And you get to within 4. What is the most snow ever to fall
for the
in
month?
the month of November?
I'm going to say, I know there was a 1 foot, 19 was it 38? There was a big snowstorm. So I'm going to say for the month, it's probably the month record's what, about 14 inches?
Do you want me to give you the answer? Or?
Yeah.
And and the year you're saying is 1938?
Oh, I don't know if that was the actual snowiest November on record, but I'm going to say, I think 14 or 15. Yeah, 14 or 15 inches for the month of November is my guess for the snowiest man.
Believe it or not, 1898, 19 inches of snow in November.
That was actually the other number I was going to go with, was to say 19, because that's, for some reason, that number popped into my head. So I must have seen that before, and then I just decided to discount it. But yeah, but again, go back and look at the records, and you'll find that there weren't that many. There really aren't that many double-digit snow years for the month of November. There's a lot of single. No. There's a lot of years in November where the number's been 0. Okay, goose egg.
Right.
So
yes,
I think I did the math. It's like 9 out of 10 Novembers you don't see any snow at all in New York.
Right, and you brought that up strongly more than once 3 years ago when we had that quote unquote when we had the surprise quote unquote or the what I refer to as the Governor Murphy snowstorm when he, put out an emergency and statement and blamed the Weather Bureau or Weather Service for not alerting us to this. And of course, we said the night before that we were going to get this, but Governor Murphy, I know, does not watch our show. So
No, he's not a
what are you going to
fan.
do? How about
He's
number?
among the
How about
few
number?
people that don't watch.
Yes, yes. How about number two? How many winters in Central Park since 1869 have had at least 50 inches of snow? And you get to within 5 of the number of winters that
There's
have
not a lot.
done this.
There's not a lot. I'm going to say.
We've had 100. We've had 152 years of records. So
right. I'm going to say 15 again.
very good, very close. Within 5, 18. 18 times we've had at least 50 inches of snow. And of course, you and I, we have lived through, and a lot of people here have lived through the one winter that is at the top of the list, the winter of 90, 95, 96, with I think 76 inches or 75 inches of snow.
Right.
And out your way you had what, like 100 inches or something? Something
96 and 96.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
What a winter that was.
And
right.
a bunch of 50-inch plus winters between 2000 and 2020.
Right, right. So number 3 is, what was the highest and lowest temperature ever in November in Central Park? And you have within 4 degrees to go with that.
The highest and the lowest
temperature ever recorded in Central Park in the month of November.
All right, so the highest is kind of tough because that's going to skew to the beginning of the month. So I'm trying to recall. I think we probably had an 80-degree day in early November at some point. So I'll say 80 for the highest. And as for the lowest,
Well, what was your temperature the day? What was your temperature the day after the Thanksgiving Day snowstorm?
Oh, 11. 11 was the lowest on the day after, but I was in, central Long Island with an 8-inch snow cover and radiational cooling the night before. So I'll say the lowest was 15. It seems to be going to 15 again.
Okay. 84 was the highest temperature in November. That was recorded in 1950. Early in the month. I don't know the exact date here, but I do remember reading about this. But also in 1950, we had one of the most hellacious storms ever to hit the northeastern states. It came on, I think, the 25th of November of that year. It moved up along the Appalachian Trail, and that storm caused winds of like 100 miles an hour in the New York metropolitan area, dumped lots of rain and wet snow here, dumped like 30 and 40 inches of snow down across the high mountains of North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia. It was an amazing, super strong storm. And you got to figure that if it was so warm in the early part of November, we had a shot of much, much colder air clash with that kind of warm air mass, that was probably the reason why that storm was so strong. The coldest number, Joe, believe it or not, 5 degrees in 1875. 5 degrees.
5 degrees. Wow. Izzy D, by the way, says you love the Murphy storm more than anything, don't you?
Well, I mean, you and I both remember. In fact, the night before, we even went into a dissertation about how nobody ever predicts the first significant snowfall because there's always something that happens. But the thing about that storm in 2018 was most of the municipalities, 9 out of 10 municipalities, didn't treat the roads the night before. I can tell you
because it's not in the budget.
And I can tell you right here, we here. I mean, I'm very proud of the way the Highway Department of Putnam Valley, they do a great job on our roadways. But I distinctly remember the day before that storm, all the way up until the time the first flakes were falling, I said to Renata, I don't think they treated the roads. Our road has not been treated. What's going on? and I guess either they felt that it was going to hit the road and melt, or maybe
right, because the
as you
warm
said, it's
ground.
not budgeted.
Right, there are a number of members of the Warm Ground Society in government. Just so you know.
Yeah.
And by the way, also in newsrooms, it should also be pointed out, and I remember this very clearly. I said on the night before, and I quote, okay, I quote, the evening commute tomorrow is going. This is in reference to November 15th of 2018. The evening
2018, yeah.
the evening commute tomorrow is going to be a nightmare. Even if we only wind up with an inch or so of snow, it's going to be filled with accidents and a whole bunch of other problems. And just to show you, Joe, and you know this so too well, even the newsrooms don't even listen to you, because you know what? You go in there and you tell them that, and they look at you, and the response is, well, so and so on the other station isn't talking about it.
Right.
Because
right.
of course you just work there. I mean, the other person on the other station doesn't work there, but this is the same. We could have stood on soapboxes screaming the day before with precise snow amounts with regard, which it's impossible to do. But I mean, we could have done that, and the outcome would have been exactly the same. The political gas bags would all have ignored it. What turned out to be a disaster, well, it would have turned out to be a disaster, and you still would have people saying that, oh, this wasn't in the forecast and all the rest of it. So I 40 years of this crap, it just gets to you every once in a while. Next question.
One of the things I learned from our mutual friend Alan Casper is you have to look at the camera and you have to literally talk to the camera, not as a whole bunch of people watching, but as one particular person, and stress, folks, it is going to be, or listen, we're going to have snow tomorrow. It's going to be bad. We're going to expect, and then you go through the whole plethora of things that may happen. Just like yesterday, I was saying, as I was watching some of the forecasters in the morning on some of the stations here in New York, and I'm saying they say, and we may have some thunderstorms later, and they may be nasty, but let's go to the forecast. And I'm saying to myself, that's not the way to do it. You've got to talk to people and say, folks, between 2 and 4 o'clock, if you're outside, watch the sky, because it's going to get really, really bad. Nobody does that. Alan did it though, and everybody. And I learned from Alan, and I used to do that, and that's why people say now, they say, Joe, we need somebody. Nobody does this. You used to do that something, and I said I learned from the expert, but nobody does that. And on that day in 2018, we may have some snow. We're going to have some snow. How do you like that? We're going to have some snow. It's only mid-November, and it's going to be we never get a lot of snow in November anyway.
The ground is warm, and it's going to melt. And it was 80 degrees. It was 70 degrees 3 days ago. How could it stick? Blah blah blah.
Right.
Yeah. I
exactly.
Take it. Get off my phone, you old bag. Next question.
Number 4.
And the chairman hitting super chat. Mr. Scott still doing COVID runs, and
yes.
he had to get on the job early today. So we
I want to
send
thank
him
a
our
lot
best.
of people. I want to thank Scott, and I also want to thank a few people on the chat board who have been in communication with me via Facebook over the last week or so about the trip that Renata and I are going to be taking. 2 weeks from today, we leave 2 weeks from today for Down Under in Antarctica. And the thing is, though, folks, that trip may not come to pass for us if we don't pass our PCR. We have to take a PCR test, Joe, 72 hours before we get on the plane. And if one or both of us don't pass that PCR, and it runs through your mind now the way the once again COVID is surging across much of the country, including right here in New York State. But if we don't pass that test, they ain't going to let us on that plane, and we can't go down to Chile, and we can't get on that boat. So that's something that is on our minds, at least my minds, for the next couple of weeks. So Scott, God bless you. God bless you for doing your. Go God bless Scott for doing his COVID runs again, because we need people like that to help out. But like I said, if we're going to stay extra cautious now over the next 2 weeks with masks. I was at a function a few days ago. We were here in Putnam Valley. We saluted our veterans on Veterans Day with a special ceremony at Town Hall. I was the only one, Joe, who wore a mask. People were looking at me like, "Why are you wearing a mask? It's all over, isn't it? That we don't need to worry about this." But the way things are going,
you got to protect yourself if you're going to make this trip.
Correct. Absolutely.
Totally understandable.
Even with the two shots in the spring, and I got the booster, and so did Renata a couple of weeks ago. Even with all of that, we still have to take extra care because, again, like I said, if we go to the doctor, we're going to our physician, and we're getting a rapid PCR a few days before we leave. And if it comes back and says, "I'm sorry, you didn't pass, you're positive," even though we don't have any symptoms or anything, but if that comes out back positive, that's it. The whole thing goes into the, so we'll see. We'll just see.
By the way, Bill Goodman just messaged me saying he's on his way to Connecticut to do damage surveys. So he'll let me know later today what the outcome is. Go ahead.
That's good. What is the most precipitation, the most precip to ever fall in the month of November? And that you get within 5 inches of that.
You mean for the whole month?
Yes.
Okay, so I gotta think it's got to be that year. Was it 77 where we had a tropical depression that the remnants of one move up the coast? I think we got like 7 or 8 inches of rain in one day. So I'm going to say 12 for the month.
I would have thought the same thing, Joe. I well remember that case in 77.
But that wasn't it.
That way, but you were close with the number at 12.41 inches. But 1972. In 72, we apparently had according to the records, the most. I'd be interested to see how 77 stacked up to 72, but 12.41 in 1972, according to the chairman.
Okay.
And now here's your bonus question. Coldest daytime maximum temperature ever in November within 7 degrees. The coldest daytime high in November.
Didn't that happen on Thanksgiving Day sometime in the last 10 years?
I would have thought too. I would have thought
that it didn't get out of the low 30s or upper 20s or something. It's really sticking in my head.
Maybe in the modern history, in the recent year, that probably would stand. That record would stand. But again, we're going all the way back to 1869. The all-time coldest high temperature in New York at Central Park, the coldest daytime high was. Now I'm confused here. I'm confused. It says here as the answer, 14, then the @ sign.
Right.
Then November 30, 1875. I would have thought it was 30. I thought maybe it was November 14th. I'm not sure if it's November 14th, 30 degrees.
No, it's probably 14 on November. The @ sign telling you November 30th is the day. So,
but that's the coldest high temperature was 14 in November.
Well, then we would have had. I would guess we probably would have had a low in the single digits. What's the coldest low?
He doesn't say. This is the bonus. The bonus question was coldest daytime maximum ever in November within 7 degrees. Coldest daytime high. And again, it says 14 at November 30, 1875. When I first looked at this, I said to myself, 30 degrees. But no, apparently it was 14. And I say to myself, how is that possible that 14 degrees was the highest temperature that we recorded in November? On November 30th, 1875. That is incredible. That is unbelievable.
I'm doing just really quick. Let's see. Temperature records, blah, blah, blah. That's for the year.
By the way, did they put back the almanac at Central Park on the Central Park website? They took the almanac page away.
Because they were supposed to update it, right?
I guess they were updating it. I don't know if they put it back yet, though.
Yeah, I have there's a PDF here with the daily the yearly records, but I'm not quickly putting up the Where is it? Yeah, okay. I would have
Yeah,
to
they
go.
don't.
I can't do it like just like that. I'd have to. It'd take me a while to find it.
Okay, they put here on the site. Are you looking for the almanacs? Monthly almanacs have been temporarily removed for updating. Daily almanacs can easily be generated using our climate webpage, and they give you a URL for that. So there you go. But they're updating the obviously they're updating for the to do the 30-year, the new 30-year means.
Right.
So
uh.
so there you go.
Yep. All right. Let's wrap it up here on this on this Sunday, approaching a quarter after 12 Eastern time. So thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for all of you who've hit the super chat tip jar today, all too numerable to mention at this point, mainly because of the fact that I lost the list. But thank you as a group. Thank you very much. Joe and I do appreciate your support. We will be back tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern time. So be sure to tune in then. Otherwise, Mr. Rayo, have a great Sunday and a great start to your week.
You too, sir. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 7:30.
Okay, 99. Well, it's not quite 99. So, what do you go? Day
No.
day. Bye, everybody.